Welcome to the inaugural edition of Open Source. I'm Tony Mottley, and my guest today is Khaliph Young. Khaliph is a digital media and marketing specialist and all-around great guy. Khaliph, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks, Tony. Thanks for having me, of course.
Always, man. Let's just jump right in. Right now, we're in the midst of COVID-19, coronavirus, etc. What impact is that having on the media so far that you've seen?
Well, I guess the impact is having on the public. I mean, we're communicating learning to communicate in a different age right now, with the coronavirus and everything. So, people are Zooming and FaceTiming, virtual handshakes and hugs, is ruling the day. So I think it's a good opportunity to share, what's a good platform to really have a group chat, because people are, really big into the Zoom thing, like I said, and apparently the FaceTime and everything. So it's pretty interesting. We're communicating differently with family and friends that we would normally, go by or have a hug, handshake, sit down and have lunch or dinner or whatever. So all that has changed.
It's interesting too. We've seen some of these platforms, and I guess some of the back end support structure for these platforms has struggled at times because they're getting to a level of capacity that and usability. I don't think they ever expected, because basically everybody is online at one time, and that's an
Right.
issue.
And I think didn't at one point Netflix had to slow down, or I think Netflix in the UK had to slow down their streaming because the capacity was getting blown up.
Yeah, I think Netflix and I believe Amazon Prime both committed to dialing down some of their speeds because, and I guess quality at that point too, because of so many users being on at one time. So, that's an issue. Now, the other thing we talked about, you mentioned Zoom, and I know this week we saw some reports that there's some security flaws in Zoom, and even the founder and CEO of Zoom talked about the free version was never meant to be used in the way that it's being used. Of course, that's just innovation. Pretty much everything great that's happened is something that is used for a purpose not intended. So that's not unusual, but apparently people can have their cameras taken over, their login credentials compromised, and even the device that they're using compromised. So there's some serious security concerns when it comes to Zoom. And I think basically with any of these online platforms, security is something you still have to be mindful of.
Yeah. Now, is that a American company or is it a Chinese company? Sometimes some of those Chinese apps, TikTok for one, have been flagged for, data breaches or collecting data that you're willfully giving out to them. So is Zoom fall in that category, or?
I believe Zoom is it's a Chinese immigrant. He went to school in the United States, but he still has ties to China, and I guess there's some Chinese influence over the company. So, yeah, it's something to consider. I think one of the things with anybody, just in a general rule, and you'll hear throughout, what we do on this program is just to remind people to use secure passwords and use encryption, 128-bit encryption, whenever it's available to you. Change your passwords frequently because there's a lot of gangster people out here on the web and on your mobile devices. And when you use public Wi-Fi, you go to Starbucks or any, a similar establishment, those public Wi-Fis may or may not be secure. You may have an unscrupulous person that just happens to work in that establishment who can compromise that Wi-Fi. So be mindful of all those things.
So what platforms have you researched that might be a better option? I do like the FaceTime situation, but I understand that not everyone has an iPhone, and I just joined the ranks after a long hiatus. The last iPhone I had was an iPhone 3, and it's been Android ever since. So what platforms have you kind of identified that might make a good alternative to Zoom?
Well, I think FaceTime, like you mentioned, is great if everybody in your group has FaceTime, and I think 6 people is the limit on FaceTime in terms of
Yeah,
group
yeah,
chat. So that's something that can be used if everyone is an iPhone user. Beyond that, Google Hangouts is available on iOS and Mac OS, and it's built for that. I kind of in the past before pre-corona found it not really useful, but you think back now, and right now, what it can do is allow an infinite number of people to join a meeting together with video and audio, and it's a robust, available platform that's free for everybody. So
yeah.
that's a good option.
I've always liked Google Hangouts. When I was at the city, I would use that platform with Mayor Dave Bing in some instances and stuff. But I've always liked Google Hangouts as a platform. But now that they've upped it, where you can include a bunch of others like that and everything, that should be good. And I think the public really needs to know, before you go jumping on some technology just because it's free, you have to be, mindful of what's going on and taking place on the back end, as far as your data and information and stuff like that.
And I think anytime you know you hear free, and even if it's a paid platform, I mean your information, your data is being collected, and I think the public in general may not have a complete understanding of the value of your data. But
Yeah.
essentially, especially when it's Google or Apple or one of your phone providers, the ability to know where you are, where you go, um, forever, as long as you have that device. They know when you get up, they know when you go to bed, they know where you shop, they know where you bank, they know who you talk to, they know all your patterns. It's a data collection on steroids, and
Hmm.
they can build a profile of every user based on that. And I think what we think about often is demographic data, but really, from a marketing point of view, the value of the data is really in the details, the insights of the data. For example, they want to know, a company may want to know, not necessarily whether you're Asian or African American, but they want to know how many people shop at a particular store, how many people buy lunch at a particular place, that kind of thing. They want to know because they want to be able to market a product to that group of people. They want to carve that data up into meaningful groups, segments for them. And I think we're giving them, as the public, we're giving them that kind of information. That's why Google has so much value. That's why Apple has so much value beyond just the
Hmm.
hardware and software that they're peddling. So anyway, that's something to think about. But let's
Yeah,
talk about
definitely.
what's happening on Facebook in particular. You and I discussed at a previous point about DJs and parties that are going on. A lot of freebies people are giving away, but you had some thoughts about that. I want you to share with our audience.
Yeah, it's interesting because I guess over the last couple of weeks, Facebook has turned into, DJ extravaganza, the obituary column. It's a lot going on on Facebook. And in particularly with the entertainment thing, I think in a little bit the genie is out the bottle on the DJ thing, because at what point are you going to try to monetize that? Facebook and Instagram isn't paying anybody anything, and I'm just beginning to see this light that we're giving away content. It's cool to post pictures and videos or promos and stuff, but a lot of people are just giving away content when you could be monetizing it some kind of way. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's, ads in your videos or what have you, or, coupons to a business or something. It's just, so I'm just trying to see, and I've been looking at some avenues of ways that entertainers in particular can monetize their content, and that's through pay-per-view. And I've identified several platforms. You've brought one to the table, and just looking at these ways that these type people entertainers and stuff can make a little revenue off of what they do. And I think we're starting to see more high-profile celebrities get into this whole IG game, right? Comedy. You had Teddy Riley did something, Erica Badu did something, and these entertainers, along with other DJs and people, they have their own audience that they could take anywhere, and on any platform. And I'm just wondering when the switch is going to come on for these big entertainers to start monetizing what they're doing, because again, Facebook and IG isn't going to pay nobody. And it's cool to have followers and fans, but I mean, really, if this continues on, because we don't know how long this is going to continue, what are entertainers going to do? Not have a concert? You got to make some money.
Right.
What are DJs going to do? What are club owners and promoters going to do? And it goes back to this, I don't know, this was probably 12 years ago, I believe. There was a comedian named Louis. He had a show on HBO, and they fell out. He did something that was, I don't know if it was
Louis C.K.?
sex.
Louis C.K.?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah,
Right.
He had some sexual misconduct or something, and so HBO canceled his.
What he did was he exposed himself, and that was his
okay.
thing. So he really didn't touch anyone, but he was
Right.
into look at me. So
yeah, look at me. That's funny. So HBO canceled his show, canceled his live. I guess they were going to do a live concert type of thing like they do, with comedians. And so shortly thereafter, he said, "Look, the audience want to see me," so he put up a stream, had people access it through PayPal, and he monetized the whole concert himself without the promotion and the big guns behind him of HBO. And so at that point in time, I was like, man, that's a great idea, number one, because you're showing independence and you have your own audience that you can monetize off of. But I was waiting for others in the entertainment industry to follow that lead and say, hey, we can be independent and do our own thing. But it never really happened. But I think this situation is going to force some people in a lot of industries to take heed and make some moves that they ordinarily wouldn't make in the digital world, because we just don't know how long this is going to continue.
You made so many excellent points that there's so many avenues there to drive off and get stuck in. But I tell you one thing that's true is we're going to see content, new content, television shows that were in the pipeline, have that were in production right now this spring, this winter, have stopped production early. You're going to find other shows that were scheduled to come online not be able to finish their production. So there's going to be a lack of studio content shortly. That's going to be an issue. I think.
And so, do you think that's going to open up an avenue for?
I think so. Yeah.
More independent.
Well, I think so. Content? I think people are going to do it. I think the problem for like the DJing and all that, the issue really is that we don't own that music. Even the artists don't. Most of them don't own their music, their own music. So you'll have to pay a fee to play that music online, and that's just a hurdle most people can't overcome. So I think that's a challenge for people. But I also agree with you that finding a way to present yourself, and I think the Instagram thing is cool because, it's like, look at me, but really there's no money in that. And I think this is a bottom line business if that's your livelihood. And so you've got to find a way to perform and get paid. And it's not about greed, but it's a job and it's a service. I mean,
it's a job.
Mm-hmm.
It's a job. Yeah, I was doing some research and I saw that some club in Australia did a virtual party And they used it as a fundraiser. And I think they, for a cause and everything, they tied a cost to their event. But I think they raised like $300,000 from a virtual, club party event type of thing. So we'll see what the demand becomes, but we just don't know how long this is going to last. And I mean, I could not imagine, being a DJ or a performer and you can't even book for the next 2 months. I mean,
Yeah,
what
it's
does that
really
look
shut.
like?
It's taking people. I mean, there's no government relief for them. I mean, they're out of business, and that's painful.
Yeah.
I think what you talked about in terms of the venue, you shared that on online yesterday about the Australia thing. I think the other thing I want to talk to you about while I have you is that there are other applications or other needs. There's still, I mean, some people are going to still conduct business. I think, what do you think the future is for how people have communicated in a corporate sense now? I mean, there were always WebEx and those kind of meetings, but now it's pretty much the only game in town. How do you think that's going to affect how people conduct business? Because even let's say the coast is clear at some point, I think there's gonna be some reluctance for large gatherings, and I know I would be reluctant to.
Yeah, I think a big lesson is going to be learned from a corporate standpoint. And I think that lesson is it's okay to work remote. It's okay to have remote teams. You can still be productive. The job can still get done. Because some companies in some parts of the world, United States anyway, have been reluctant to have remote workers. It's still that corporate staunchy. You gotta to be productive, you gotta be present. But those myths are clearly getting blown away. And that's just like you said, people are going to be leery of gatherings, of employee gatherings and all that kind of stuff. Because how many times have we been in the office and someone sick comes in and they, it's like, oh, I don't want to get their germs, but I got to be here. I mean, we've seen that scenario. Look, if you're sick, take your butt home. But I mean, we've seen that where sick people have been forced to work or forced to come in, and then so and so has it, then the next person has it. So I think that this is a great case study, an eye opener for a lot of corporations that have to continue to do business and have allowed, almost forced to have their workers work from home
Well, I
or
think
remotely.
you make a great point. I think beyond all that is that this is in a sense a reckoning for our country because, and I don't want to get off onto this because that's not what we're about. But you got to think about access to health care and access to, paid leave. And so
Hmm.
everybody's better off, especially when you have a pandemic like this. You know that you're better off not coming in or not. We're all practicing social distancing, but we know prior to this, people were forced to, like you said, come to work sick, infect everybody else. It wasn't deadly, but still, it's a quality of life issue, and it's really kind of ridiculous that people are forced to do that. And I think if you, as a manager, if you've got employees that are exploiting the system, there's a remedy for that. So this
Hmm.
idea that I think corporate wants to be able to, I mean, from a business point of view, the least number of variables you have, the better off you are. So that variable about people not being in where you can see them and see what they're doing, you want to eliminate that. But realistically, we're just in a different age right now, and working from home is really, I think, is going to continue after this crisis.
Yep, I totally agree, my man. Totally agree.
So the other thing that we didn't talk about, and I didn't mention to you when we discussed doing this, is that learning. I think learning, education is going to be another place where it will not go back to how it was.
That's right.
I think,
That's right.
yeah. And so, and really it talks about, I mean, it deals with styles of learning because everybody learns differently. But I think the idea that everybody would be in one place and I think learning is a social enterprise in a sense, but at the same time, there are components or elements of distance learning. online learning that are valuable. They are.
Definitely, and online learning, broadens your learning lens. You know what I'm saying? It widens it, I believe, because you're not in the classroom confined. I mean, you're and you're able to do, research online, just a lot of more things. I think it just widens the scope, gives you a global perspective of things, opposed to just in a boxy classroom type of situation. So
Right, and I think again, what we found with this crisis is that there are inequities in people's access to the internet, people's access to smartphones, people's access. I mean, some districts are unable to mobilize an online presence and get it out to students, and so they're forced to send paper packets, have those picked up. I mean, they really don't have the ability to create an online curriculum. And I mean, again, it's not something you can do overnight, but it shows you places where there's weakness in our system.
yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
I never
it
looked
is.
at it that way.
It is, and I think too. You wonder. First of all, I'll make a prediction here. I'll be on record. I don't think, given the slow way that the United States has reacted to this virus in terms of self-isolation, lockdowns, sporadic lockdowns. Every state's kind of done their own thing. There's still 11, 12 states that haven't done it. This is going to last until the summer, I believe.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, if all states go on lockdown right now, I think, on a positive side, 60 days. You know, but with states not joining that, and some states just getting into that, and then the other thing, people not doing what they need to do, like you said, it could go in definitely into the summer. I can see that.
Yeah, I think too many people, too many states have done things differently, and it just I know late this week, we saw a county in northern Michigan, Oscoda County, had several cases, and you got to consider too that these rural small counties, it's happening in Georgia right now. Albany, Georgia has one major hospital, and it's overwhelmed basically in a matter of days. And so those smaller areas are not able to treat the people that are sick in their communities. And that's a dangerous situation for people. As much as we see large, New York City, Detroit, LA, other places overwhelmed, these smaller places, they don't have any capacity. And
Right,
basically people
right.
are at that point left to die.
It's just sad,
It is
sad
sad, yeah,
situation.
yeah, and it says a lot about us. But hey, that's not what we exist to talk about. Well, I think the other thing that you do is you have a presence online on Roku. Share with the audience what that's all about.
Well, it's about lifestyle content that seems to work. Everybody loves art, food, culture, fashion, um, those type of things. So we try to present that type of content on Roku, Samsung TV, Amazon Fire, and any other platform that I could try to identify out there. We try to have a presence on those platforms and present lifestyle content. So,
And it's Volume TV is what the app is, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
smart TV app is Volume
Volume
TV.
TV. And I think
Yeah,
it's amazing. You've always done kind of leading edge things. You're doing things that I'm always saying, well, what's that all about? And then, a
right.
couple of years later, we see, oh, okay, I get it now. But I think that's fantastic, Khaliph. And I appreciate
Thanks.
you just joining us, sharing a little bit about what you're doing and giving your perspective on where we are right now. I think the takeaway today is investigate places where you can communicate with your people safely and continue. Those platforms may evolve. In terms of what's best for you right now, that's changing constantly. So I think you got to continue to look at that. I think people should be mindful of security, and there's nothing like having your personal information or your bank account hacked. So be careful with those things, and then innovate. And I think this crisis is not a time to be afraid. Be mindful, stay safe, but look at other opportunities. Look at the opportunities that are being presented. Every time the game changes, you can change with it and take advantage of that.
Yeah, be flexible.
Be flexible. All right, we're out for now. Thanks, Khaliph. We'll see you all next time. Open Source.